Welcome to Tansson TV Plus. Of course, I'm Brandon.
And I'm Mom.
Thank you so much for joining us. We always love doing these discussions. And Mom, what are we doing today?
We are actually going to do part 2 of Agatha.
Yeah, so we're speaking about overall just the final 5 episodes of Agatha All Along from Marvel Television on Disney Plus.
Yes.
But yes, and overall, because there's just so much that happened in this, I think we're just going to speak broadly about the series and a little bit as to what stood out for us.
Yep, we sure are.
And Mom, are you able to go ahead and get us started?
Yes, and like I said, I'm going to talk about the end part of Agatha and just some generic information about what we learned from the end part. First of all, we did finally learn the backstory of Agatha as something that is hinted upon, and so we do get to know the beginnings of Agatha and what kind of made her her. We learn about the backstory of the teen also and what his full story is. And then we also find out what happens to the coven. And we also find out if anyone survives in the coven. And then also, we will be giving a few spoilers. So just a little spoiler alert for you.
Well, Mom, thank you so much for that.
You are welcome, Brandon.
Yeah, and taking over from here. So overall, we have seen all of this, and I just want to go ahead and start us off with. So, Mom, what did you think about the show?
Overall, I mean, it was put together well. However, I was not a big fan. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people were a big fan of the show, but I was not a big fan of the series.
And yeah, and to ask a little, I guess, follow up to that. Would you say it's more so because of the show itself, or more so because this is not your genre, or a mix of both?
It's probably a mixture of both. It's not my genre. I do watch. I watch a lot of Marvel, and I enjoy Marvel. This particular one, even though I thought the beginning was catchy, and I found the teen part really interesting, but overall, even though I was initially intrigued, toward the end, I thought it dragged, and then I just kind of lost interest, which is so unlike everyone else. But it's only my mere opinion.
Yeah, and for me, I thought the show was. I'm feeling indifferent about it. Because on one hand, I like mystery and I like intrigue, but in the same regard, I feel like we sort of lost a little bit the mystery part, and we went more so to just plot and backstory instead of sort of fleshing out the characters and then letting said fleshed out characters, live.
Yeah, that's true. Because once you learned who the characters were, they they didn't live any longer.
Yeah, I think it'd be a little different, like, for instance, if they're like legacy characters or characters we already knew about, because then I think it would have had a little bit more weight. But in the same regard, I feel like it did more of we're explaining more than what we're showing at times.
Yes, yeah, you are correct. There was a lot of explanation. Like I said, especially, but they had to explain. They built up the beginning, and said there was a lot of explaining to do towards the end.
Absolutely, and even though we spoke a little bit about what the series was about, I actually wanted to shift gears a little bit. So one of the major parts, outside of just the plot, that the show showcased was actually the music and the musical themes.
Yes, and of course, "The Witch's Road" is the one song that it is the song of the series to me, and so I thought the song itself it was very catchy. The tune was catchy. It stood out, and it was a memorable song. I think you used the word hypnotic, and some could say that. What were your thoughts with the song?
I thought it was really interesting how many times they were able to reuse the same song over and over again, but yet make it different each time, and also provide different meaning to it in different cases.
Yes, very true.
Yeah, and I mean, it comes to no surprise, of course, that the team that put together these songs, as we mentioned in our previous discussion, are the same ones that made the one for WandaVision, which also had pretty catchy songs, but whereas they had different ones in different TV genres, this one was more of a very different vibe.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a very different vibe and feel to these songs where it sort of felt like enchanted in some sense, but like you were saying from quoting from me, is that sort of hypnotic in the sense that like it sort of became the underscore, no pun intended, of the series, the song.
Yeah, it did. It did. Yes, it did seem like it was the underscore of the series, and but like I said, and that may have been the point, because with that song, so many things happened, and so especially toward the end, where they kind of explained a lot, and they explained the reasoning behind the song.
Yes, absolutely. And we'll definitely touch on that in a moment. But I would say one of the primary mysteries that the show was trying to sort of uncover was finding out the identity of not just the Witch's Road, but also the identity of the teen. And he was actually given his own episode, too.
Yeah, he was, and that was the one episode I liked. But yes, he was given his own episode, and I had guessed who it was. I can't remember. Had you guessed the same person?
Yes, I'd also guessed him.
Yes. So I knew it was Wanda's son, and I'm sorry we said spoiler, but I knew it was Wanda's son, and there was really no other child it could possibly be unless it was Agatha's child. Um, but they point blank at the beginning said it was not Agatha's child, and so for me it was interesting to see how were they going to incorporate the son in there, or what backstory they were going to give him.
Yeah, and to go a little bit further, too. Not only did we figure that it was Wanda's son, but we figured it was his son, yeah, her son, Billy, and not Tommy.
Yeah, and I have no reasoning for that. I just kind of I said Billy first.
Yeah, likewise for me. I just felt it was, Billy. But yeah, but going a little bit further into it. So with that episode, like, what were your thoughts about how they told the story? Like, we completely devoid the main plot of the show just for that episode.
I thought they did a nice job. I mean, you weren't expecting them to necessarily begin like that, if I remember correctly, and so I liked the way they developed it. It was done, to me, slow enough, where you understood exactly where it was going. Um, and I like that they gave him a different life per se initially, with the parents, and then to kind of explain, and with the car accident, that I mean, it just kind of explained everything that happened to him, and I thought they did a nice job incorporating it. And then I believe that was the episode where they kind of went back a little bit in regards to showed a little bit what was really going on with Agatha, whereas a lot of it was in her imagination. Well, in the imagine, I should say, innate and imagination of someone. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I thought it was first of all hilarious in regards to seeing the other side of Agatha when she's going a little bit crazy behind the scenes of episode one. Um, but yeah, but continuing on with it, I really liked that they gave William Kaplan a true story, and that it made it care about him before they did what the show was famous for and killing people off.
Yes. Yeah.
But nevertheless, though, I think it gave such an intrigue to Billy and sort of trying to make us think, well, what happens here? What's his motivation? And to think that he was able to finally piece everything together with coming up with a mysterious stranger.
Yes. Yeah. He was.
But yes, and so with that mysterious stranger, he actually ran into Ralph Boner from WandaVision.
Yeah, he did. That was a surprise.
Yeah, I mean, I know we were trying to figure out, like, who could it potentially be that he's going to go to for information?
Yeah, we did, and I that was not the person I would have expected.
But yeah, but I thought it made perfect sense, and I think it sort of tied the two shows together in probably the best way possible. But yeah, and like I said, and the show, of course, did its best to sort of develop identity for the other characters to some extent or another. Like I said, I feel sort of indifferent just because, while I like the effort they put into developing these other characters, in the same regard, it I think it would have felt a little bit more worthwhile if we had, seen these characters continue forward and not just, immediately get rid of them. But nevertheless, though, proceeding forward, we did learn a bit about Agatha. And so, overall, what were your thoughts about what we learned about her, especially in that last episode?
Well, it explained a lot about her. I mean, and the Witch's Road itself. What she did with her son. And then the conniving person that she was at that time period, and then also what she and how she was kind of taking the powers from everyone. So I thought that was an interesting way that they kind of wrapped that all together.
Yes, and especially with tying that to the story of, like, Rio, for instance, and how for her, she is the embodiment of death and told Agatha that I will be taking your son from you, but we're not going to tell you when.
Yeah.
But I actually wanted to sort of switch gears a little bit though, and so I want to say we have seen the preceding show, WandaVision, and at least for me, I really liked that show, and I was intrigued by Catherine Hahn's character of Agatha in that. But having seen this, do you feel like she needed a series?
I think when it ended, I thought she did need a series just to give her a little bit more explanation and everything like that. Um, how they proceeded with the series is something else. I thought at the end that that it could have continued, and but I don't know if it needed to be this much in depth per se.
Yeah, and that's definitely less that interesting to know. And for me, I kind of like the intrigue of the character, but I kind of as bad as it sounds, I kind of wish it would have sort of stayed a mystery. To me, I mean, as a sitcom person, I like the idea of like the nosy neighbor type of roles that you never really know fully of, like even relating to some of the sitcoms we've seen in the past, like Mrs. Poole from the Hogan Family. We never are going to know everything that there is to know about Mrs. Poole, and I think that's okay. I think that's sort of the fun of wanting to go back and revisit because you learn more and more in each watch and rewatch. And so I kind of wish the character of Agatha sort of stayed a mystery and wasn't all told to us by the end of the series.
Yeah, that's true. Or either that, or they could have had one episode kind of lingered, mingled with another series per se, to kind of give us a little bit of Agatha, maybe a tease of Agatha. But like I said, I just wasn't as happy with the path that they took.
But yes, and we did hear that there will potentially be a third series made, making this a trilogy of WandaVision, Agatha All Along, and whatever third show is. But what would you want that series to be about? And is there anything that you do not want to see in the third series?
Well, I think it's supposed to be about Billy finding Tommy. If I read, although with Marvel, you never know, they could change that again. Um, but I do, Brandon, I really don't know what I really want out of the series. I mean, I guess the question would be like, where is Tommy? And so hopefully it won't be a convoluted path to Tommy. Um, and so then to find out on the other side, well, what is Tommy's life like? So, and I guess that's for me. I guess that's what it would be. What is Tommy doing, and where has he been?
Yeah, I definitely, like I said, will like to see that as well. And I think one of the episodes in passing for this series, they sort of, I guess, had Billy make a new life for Tommy? Question mark. They didn't really go far into it, but like I said, all paths based off the end of this series makes it sound like they're heading towards finding Tommy. Maybe that they'll add Vision in it, since we had a show about Wanda, a show about Billy and Agatha. Like I said, maybe Tommy and Vision are next. I don't know, but I think what I wouldn't want to see though is something that, like, because this was a more, I guess, serious take. I'd like to see something a little bit more comedic. Not to say that it can't have some real feelings in it, but that something that's more lighthearted than what we saw in Agatha.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they use any more people from the town in order to enhance Billy and Tommy's story.
Yeah, and so we did see the residents of Westview again in passing, I believe in episode 8, but we didn't really get that much of it. Yeah, I would actually like to see them at the forefront for a new show.
Yeah, that would be interesting to see.
But yeah, and speaking of which, for Billy, we never got closure with him and his boyfriend.
Yeah, well, that's something that they could bring up again in the next series.
And I would like to really see what William Kaplan slash Billy's parents again in future MCU projects, whether it be the third series or otherwise.
Yeah, that would be an interesting thing to explore, to see how they can kind of utilize those characters in a little different way. And then Billy had his own world that, of course, it was emphasized at the beginning, but not toward the end. So it'll be interesting to see what that other world would be like with Billy and Tommy, and would Tommy go to the other world or this current world he's in?
Yeah, and before we begin closing out and beginning listing one of our connections, I did want to actually ask a general MCU question, and that is, going forward, what would you want to see in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? We've seen the likes of Hawkeye and Thor returning, whereas characters like Wanda have departed, or at least so we think. And new characters such as Kate Bishop and Miss Marvel, have been introduced. But what would and Billy, and so what would you want to see in the future of the MCU?
Well, that's a good question. I like Hawkeye. So I think I know they have, of course, the series Hawkeye, but I think if they explored his life a little bit more in regards to a movie, that would be great to see. Along with Kate, he and Kate, they did. I thought they did a great job with the show on Disney. I think that'd be kind of interesting to see them in a movie. And then I know not a lot of people like the Marvels. I would like to see, you know, them actually tackle that again too.
Yeah, I definitely like to see them as well. I'd love to see a potential like Young Avengers movie or show.
Yeah, and then I'm an Incredible Hulk fan, so seeing him in another movie would be actually fine too.
Well, yeah, because we haven't even seen him since I believe She Hulk.
Yeah, and then I'm an Ant Man fan too. So I guess there are a lot of since I take the comedic approach for this, I guess I would like to see a little bit of that in a movie.
Yeah, and I feel like we have so many characters just lingering out there. Like we haven't seen Shang-Chi since his movie, I don't think.
No, we sure haven't, and I would love to see another movie with him. I thought that movie was really, really good, and that was a surprise movie for me, for one that I was not expecting to be as good as it was.
But yeah, so I definitely feel like we have a lot of hope for future MCU projects, and so I definitely like to see more, like more things on the creative side that don't necessarily, um, have to be a traditional superhero story. And for whatever it's worth, uh, I do at least appreciate that for Agatha all along that they at least decided to do something different and not just the
Mhm.
same thing over and over again.
That is true. They did attempt to do something that, and it did stand. I mean, people liked it, so it stood out.
Yeah, and even though you didn't care for it as much, I think you can at least admit that that song does get stuck in your head.
Yep, this song does get stuck in your head. I will admit that.
But yes, but last but not least, I want to say that we do have a little quick connection, and that is that the music composer Christoph Beck, he did the music for, of course, for this series as well as Shazam, Fury of the Gods, alongside Hawkeye.
Yeah. Yes.
But mom, is there anything else that you want to say before we go ahead and close out this discussion?
No, Brandon, I think you've covered everything. We got to thank everyone for watching today. Let us know your thoughts about Agatha.
Yes, please do. And what do you want to see in the future of the MCU? Let us know.
Yeah, please let us know.
Well, mom, I always love doing this with you.
Oh, same to you, Brandon. Everybody, have a great day.
We'll see you next time.
All right, bye bye.